This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 276 of the Dressage Radio Show on the Horse Radio Network, brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, TotalSaddleFit.com, and Easy Signs Online.
This is Reese Koffler-Stanfield from Georgetown, Kentucky.
And this is Philip Parks from Fergus, Ontario, and you're listening to the Dressage Radio Show with our producer, Glenn.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Glenn.
Hi, guys. How are you all?
Doing good.
Excellent. I love it. Glenn, how are you today?
I'm good. I missed your show last week, but I listened to it. I was on my way down to Dr. Wendy's to take my driving lesson, and I listened to it on the way down. Terrific show last week. If anybody missed it. Laura Graves was just so much fun to listen to.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun with that show, didn't we?
Yeah, it was really a lot of fun hearing about the WEG, and I guess we're going to be doing a little bit more of that tonight.
Yes, we are. We have another team member on. Adrienne Lyle is going to come on and talk to us about her experience at the World Equestrian Games. Super excited that both ladies came on the show, and they're lots of fun and just fun to hear. You know, the maybe more the junior members of this team, and it was really cool to hear how they developed over their experience in Europe. And I think everybody will really have a great time. And we have Jodie Kelly on. She's a friend of the show. She's on quite a bit. And we love having her every time. And she went to the World Equestrian Games in France. She also came to the one here in Kentucky. So she's got some great insight of what it was like to actually see 100 Grand Prix and what it felt like to be there for all of those, all the bumps and things in everybody's program. So I think this is going to be another really fun show.
Well, we're living vicariously for another week, right? And then that's it. We have to say goodbye to the World Equestrian Games until it comes to Canada,
Until we come see Philip.
Until we come up north.
Yay! All staying at Philip's house.
Party at Philip's.
Can you move closer, please? Because 6 hours isn't close enough to make the daily trip.
We can take the helicopter.
Oh, good. All right.
Even better.
Be great.
That's not a
How many
problem.
can we fit? Because I have like 12 hosts that want to go.
Oh,
so.
never mind.
Maybe in the wings.
Dressage Radio Show only.
Love it.
I better keep doing the show for another 4 years, huh?
Yeah, exactly. You got to keep producing.
I'm not going to be in the budget for the helicopter. I'll be on the little platform outside.
You'll be stuck behind.
Love it. Well, very cool. But yes, we do have a really fun show this week. So right after this commercial break, we will come back with Adrienne Lyle.
This Nutrition Minute is brought to you by Kentucky Performance Products, the company that simplifies your search for research-proven nutritional supplements at kppusa.com.
The horse that matters to you matters to Kentucky Performance Products. Researchers have confirmed that as horses age, they naturally become less sensitive to insulin and more susceptible to health problems caused by too much sugar in the diet. One way to reduce the sugar content in a horse's diet is to replace sugar-laden grains with a high-fat supplement. Fat is an extraordinary energy source. It is readily utilized by the horse and contains more than 2 times the calories of sugary grains. Equijewel Stabilized Rice Bran is an excellent fat supplement. It contains a balanced calcium to phosphorus ratio and won't cause mineral imbalances when added to the diet. Its all-natural ingredients are high in healthy fat and fiber. Best of all, Equijewel allows owners to easily replace the calories previously supplied by sugary grains. When you need to add healthy calories to your horse's diet, choose Equijewel. To learn more, visit Kentucky Performance Products at kppusa.com.
Well, it is my pleasure to have our WEG Dressage team member, Adrienne Lyle, on the show tonight. Adrienne, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we love it. And just you and Wizard are now home safe and sound, right?
We just got home on Saturday, finally to our home in Idaho. We flew from Amsterdam to LA, quarantined there, rested for a day or two there, and then did the drive back to Idaho. So we're finally home.
Excellent. Well, we cannot wait to hear all about your adventure. Could we maybe start a little bit on how the qualifying process went for you?
Yeah, I mean, this all started for me back in November of last year, which is when we left our home in Idaho, and we have been on the road since November. We headed down to Florida, and we had a super show season down there. we're really able to take advantage of having global. They're so close and getting a lot of show ring experience, and felt like Wizard just blossomed with that. And so we came in with some really strong scores into Gladstone. And then in Gladstone, we ended up making the top 8 and heading over to Europe. And that was, I think, a really cool experience that I've never had a chance to do that with everyone kind of together in one base camp over there. And I thought that was really neat to get to be part of a U.S. contingency everywhere you traveled.
That had to be interesting. It seemed like you guys did really well. Did anybody get on your nerves? I got to ask that question.
I'm sure we all got on each other's nerves. It's a long time to be spending together, but I know we had a great time, actually. We always have, at least once a week, we have like a barbecue at the barn and everyone would hang out. And, you really do become pretty close to a lot of people when you're spending that much time together. And it's fun when you go in the ring to get to see people there waving American flags, when you're not in America. So it's fun to have that support.
Absolutely. So when you were in Belgium, you were in camp, and then you guys went to horse shows, right?
Yes. So we got to Belgium. We left like just a couple days after Gladstone. This has just been like one thing after another. It was like boom, boom, boom. We left on the Tuesday after Gladstone. We flew to Amsterdam and then hauled down to the base camp at Belgium, which is a beautiful stud farm. And Rob, the man who owned it, was the nicest, most gracious host. He just let us literally take over his barn. We had 10 horses there between Stefan and Tina Spall tour horses, as well as the top 8 Grand Prix horses, and was so accommodating to us. And then we were there for about a week, and then we headed on a 14-hour trailer ride up to Fritzens, Austria, and that was our first show. And that was beautiful, but I'm, of course, biased because I live in the mountains in Idaho, so I was, feeling right at home there. But an absolutely beautiful show put on by the Swarovski family, and they just showered you with gifts from, the second you walk in. I've never been to a show with, more gracious hosts. It was really fun. They make it into, a big party atmosphere. And so that was our first show. And then we came back to Belgium. We were there for, I think, 2 weeks. And then we headed off to Aachen. And that was my first time riding at Aachen. And it's something that's totally been on my bucket list in life. So I was so thrilled.
Yeah. How was that? I mean, I that's on my bucket list. So what was that like? That's on a lot of people's bucket list.
You always wonder if it's going to live up to the hype.
Does it?
And it does. It exceeded it. It's the coolest show I've ever been to, hands down.
Wow. So
and
what was it like?
To get a ride on the team there. But it's so well done. First of all, the showgrounds they have, the driving horses going on, out in the back. They have eventers over there. They have the the huge show jumping stadium, as well as the dressage stadium. And you, as a public and as a competitor, can pretty much wander anywhere you want and watch all of this going on. So it's a really fantastic venue that way. And
it was
because of that,
a little mini WEG before you had to go to the World Equestrian
It totally was. It's set up just like that, yeah. And so,
awesome.
And the fans were incredible. I said it's always so fun to go over to Europe because not only are the stadiums full, but they're full of really educated people. You miss a change, and the whole 20,000 people go, oh!
They're riding with you.
There's that in tune, for better or for worse. But then when it's going good, the energy they have is just incredible.
Well, Adrienne, leading up to the games and talking about all these competitions, it seemed like you and Wizard really came together as a partnership and really improved over the season and up to the games. What was the key to that?
I think a big part of it with him is just keep kind of challenging him in different environments. If you get too complacent and just stay home too long with him, he gets a little cocky. And so being able to be over in Europe and have all these different show experiences, I think every time you go down center line, you learn so much about you and your horse, and being in the great environment where we were able to have coaching and just keep getting out there and getting exposure and learning how to handle all these different environments.
Wow. So you went to Aachen, and then you guys had 2 weeks before the World Equestrian Games?
Yeah. And no, we had, I think there was 3 or 4 weeks before the World Equestrian Games, because I went after Aachen. I decided I wanted to do one more show. And so I went to Verden, to the CDI there. And because, again, he'd been in this rhythm now of about every 2 or 3 weeks we'd been going and showing, and that was what we did in Florida, and that's what we did over in Europe, and it seemed to just keep his brain where it needed to be. So I didn't necessarily want to sit for a month before the World Equestrian Games.
Sure.
So we
and
did choose to do Verden, and that was That was a great show. He had some really strong performances there too, and he's at an age where I don't have to drill on him hard at home. I'm not riding the snot out of him between these shows. He has a couple of days off. We play with a couple things. I look at my test, figure out where I want to pick up a half a point, and then you go to the next show. So it's not, as incredibly strenuous on him as it sounds if you're able to keep that all under control.
Sure. And you and Wizard have been a partnership for quite some time now. How long have you been riding him?
I've been riding him 9 years now.
Yeah, you guys have been together a really long time, so you know your horse and you know how to prepare him and his rhythm, and I think that's an incredible thing to be able to do that. So you guys went to Verdun, had a great show at Verdun, and then you get called for the WEG. So what did you do sort of in preparation for the WEG?
We tried not to change a whole lot. We've been having, like I said, this system that's been working, and so you just kind of have to trust your gut and stick with that. And part of that with him is giving him those down days after shows and trail riding and turnout. And, I said, I'm absolutely sticking with this plan. This is what I want to do moving forward. I'm not going to get myself hyped up and overdo anything. This is what's kept him happy and comfortable. And so we just stuck with that same plan.
Awesome. And that takes experience. That is something really hard to do, especially when you're in
very hard, especially when you look around and you see, everyone else is riding today, and some of them have rode twice today, and they're practicing twice as much as I, and you have to just really take a deep breath and say, you know what? You got to trust that I know what I'm doing at this point. My horse knows what he's doing. I got to stick with what my gut says.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about the difference sort of between the Olympics and the World Equestrian Games.
Yeah, well, for me, one of the big differences was when I went to the Olympics, I was riding for USA, but I was riding as an individual. So it's a very different dynamic. For the World Equestrian Games, I was a team member, and so you now, are riding for first and foremost for your team, and that becomes the most important thing. Is you want to be able to go out there and put a good performance down for your team.
So give us a little rundown in preparation. You have a few days before the WEG, and then getting there and traveling and preparing for the actual test.
WEG on Thursday. We left early from Belgium and drove to the WEG. It was like about a 5-hour drive, 6 hours, 7 for the trailer. You got to go through all the French countryside, which was beautiful. I'd never been to France, so that was exciting for me.
Oh, yeah.
We rolled in on, beautiful. It was gorgeous. Yeah. So we got in there on Thursday, and then we had opening ceremonies on Friday, I believe, which was really fun. There's always so much excitement, and everyone's, milling around in the holding areas in the warm-up arenas, walking down. You walk through this big tunnel to get from the warm-up arenas, because it's a soccer stadium. So you walk through this underground tunnel, and then all of a sudden you come out in this huge stadium, and it's just such a cool feeling.
Yeah, what was it like to ride under that tunnel? That's a really long tunnel, we heard.
It was a very long tunnel, and Wizard definitely gets a little wound up in there, so you try to keep him as focused on you as you can during that. But it was something when we only had 2 days in the ring, one day actually, I guess, before the show, and then you could get in the morning of the show as well for a little schooling. But that was something I spent a couple minutes working on, just walking in and out that tunnel and giving him sugar and letting him know it's a safe place, because it's really loud down there too, because everyone's cheering for the ride before you. So you're walking down there and it just sounds like this huge echoing hall with, thousands of people clapping. But it's also a really cool feeling to get a ride from that out into a big stadium.
Oh, I believe it. So how you get ready and you're ready for the Grand Prix. How did that go?
And then it started raining.
Oh,
and raining.
and raining.
And pouring.
Yeah.
Yeah. We knew that. We were watching the forecast the whole time going, come on, just push back another day. But it's no, 100% chance of 3 inches of rain expected. And it did, and it poured. And so I had to kind of take that into my plans as well, because I knew with the cold weather and with the rain and stuff that Wizard was going to be a little more frisky. So I got on him early that morning, took him into the show ring once more, just to let him walk, trot, canter, burn off a little bit of steam and get him in that environment once more. And then for my warm up, they had a covered arena, which most people chose to warm up in. But I know Wizard hates water. It's like his nemesis. He hates splashing. He hates dripping. It's not his thing. So I did 10 minutes of warm up in the indoor, and then I said, we got to go out in the outdoor arenas, even though they're standing water, because he's got to feel this splashing on him before we go in there. So we went out there and got thoroughly covered in mud and absolutely soaked before we went down center line. But he was so good for me in the Grand Prix. It was the highest score I've ever gotten in the Grand Prix over in Europe, and I mean, you wouldn't have known that he hated water and that it was pouring down rain on him. He absolutely was with me. We had a little mistake in our ones, but other than that, he was just super, and I couldn't have been more happy to be able to put that strong score in for the team. And then they were able to go into the second day, sitting in that strong fourth position, and then Laura and Stefan were able to obviously have just awesome rides.
Yeah. Well, you guys all were phenomenal. Really, really quite good. So tell us about the special. How did that go?
The special, he was not as good in. I don't know. I still, you never know with horses. He had an off day in between. I didn't do much with him. I don't know. Maybe I should have done a little more. I don't know. He wasn't as good for me, and especially at a little resistance coming into the first piaffe. The trot work was beautiful, but just some uncharacteristic mistakes. But like I said, hey, I can hardly be mad with him. He's done so much for me this season, and he pulled out, one of his best tests for the team when we needed it. And so I was just still so happy with everything he's accomplished over this year for me.
So maybe you could tell us what you're thinking and what's next after you have a little bit of a break.
Yeah, well, once I finish unpacking.
And laundry, I'm sure.
It's going to happen. Yeah, I got a ride today as my first day back at the barn. I got to ride all the other horses that have been here that I've been really missing. So that's exciting to see them again. And then we have about 2 months at home, and then we're going to be starting to pack up and head back down to Florida again in November. And my goal for Wizard for next year, if everything keeps going well and, all the stars align, I would love to try to qualify for the World Cup.
Oh, yes.
I love doing my
Vegas,
freestyle.
right?
We've always
Home
done.
turf.
Yeah, in Vegas, and it's at the Thomas Mack Center. And Perry Thomas, who's been Debbie and my longtime sponsor, helped build that arena. And that was such a special show when Debbie rode there with Rentina. I just think if there was any way we made it there, it would be a really incredible thing for Perry to get to come watch his horse show there again.
Absolutely. And Philip and I already booked our tickets, so we will be cheering.
We're going to be there. We're going to cheer you on.
I'll be there. Whether or not I'm riding, I'm going to be there anyway. I just love that.
Awesome.
I thought it was so fun when it was there last.
It was.
And so then,
It really was.
other than that, I'm going to hopefully be able to focus a little on some young horses that we have this coming season. Since last year was, 8 months on the road was pretty much Wizard.
Sure.
Hopefully we can start to play around with some of the younger ones. We've got, all the way from 3-year-olds up to some that will be 7 next year, and it's fun to have new blood and keeps it exciting.
Is Wizard sad to not have your full-time attention now?
Oh, he is pissed. I warned Taylor, who was grooming for me over there. I go, just so you know, he struggles emotionally with this when we get home because he's kind of had this whole entourage of people for the last several months catering to his every need. And so now, if you walk by him with another horse, he gets so mad. He pins his ears and charges the stall. Anyone else can walk by leading a horse, but if I walk by leading a horse, he gets very upset about it.
Oh, he says,
he
that's
just
my
doesn't
mommy.
understand. So we're still trying to make him think he's the most special horse ever because he's kind of got a ego thing going.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, as he should. So, well, Adrienne, thank you so much for your time tonight. As always, we love having you on, and I cannot wait to have you on leading up to Vegas next year and
Awesome.
getting ready, and that will be super fun. So, but keep up the good work, and thank you for being such a great team member, and that was all exciting, and we were all cheering for you big time.
All right. Thank you, guys.
And Adrienne, I almost forgot. How do our listeners find you online?
Yeah, I have a Facebook and Ask Me page. It just says Adrienne Lyle Dressage Rider. And then I also have a website, just adriennelyle.com.
Well, it is always fun to hear from Adrienne. She's such a cool person, and just to hear her experience over in Europe gave me chills. So I look forward to seeing her in the World Cup for sure. So right after this break from Easy Signs Online, we're going to talk with Jodie Kelly, an FEA rider and trainer from Destin, Florida.
This week's spotlight product from EasySignsOnline.com is their outdoor silhouette cutouts. Made from a long-term outdoor durable vinyl aluminum material, these cutouts will outlast the old-style painted wood ones by many, many years. A great way to add an equestrian image to your barn, horse stalls, mailboxes, houses, or campers. Choose from dozens of equestrian or animal graphics online, available in 2 different sizes starting at only $59.95. And remember, free shipping on most orders over $100, all at EasySignsOnline.com. Get your silhouette cutout today.
Well, it is it's always our pleasure to have Jodie Kelly from Jodie Kelly Dressage in Destin, Florida on. Jodie, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be back.
Well, we love having you, but I have to be honest, I was pretty jealous watching all your Facebook posts from France. I'm not gonna lie.
Yes.
Yeah, how long did you go to the WEG for?
So we left Friday night. We landed Saturday. We were there Saturday to Saturday, and it's a long week when you are a rider and you're used to riding daily. To be gone a full week and watching riding without actually riding, I was ready to come home. I'm not going to lie. It was a fantastic trip. It was a great week, but a week was a long time to be there.
That is a long time. And I remember my experience here at the WEG, for the second week, just the thought of like going to the venue. It's a long week. It's a lot of waiting in line and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, it totally is. By the time the freestyles were done, we loved every minute of it. It was fantastic. I wouldn't have missed a minute of it. But I was ready to go home, and there were people in our group that were there through the 3-day and the show jumping, and like they had a whole other week of it. And I was like, woof, I got to go ride. See you guys.
Well, I love it. Well, we're going to put you a little bit on the spot because we, last week we had a great interview with Geraldine Finn about sort of the venue and the backstory. And so we definitely plugged you to help us a little bit about, talk to us a little bit about the rides and what you saw overall, sort of the overall riding at these games, maybe even versus the Kentucky games.
Right. So we started with the Grand Prix, and the first 2 days of competition were all the Grand Prix, and there were 100 rides. So we saw 50 Grand Prix a day, which was amazing. And I have to say, this games probably had, and I don't know the statistics, and I could be wrong, but what seemed like to me so much more variation. Like there were people from countries that I had no idea that they had dressage horses, more so than I've ever seen before, which was cool. It was a really neat thing to see that it's even taking bigger wings than it already has. Of course you had your few countries, Germany, Holland were right in there the whole time. And then Charlotte came blowing in at the end with Allegro and jumped to Great Britain all the way up to the silver medal. But I really, for the Grand Prix, it's like a lot of World Games, because you go to Aachen or you go to some of the shows in Holland and it's like one after the other horses are amazing. And then you go to WEG, which we've always talked about that, like every country can send their top 4. So Germany was only able to send 4, whereas they probably have 10 of the top riders in the world that are just from their country, so it makes it a little bit, it definitely, what I noticed the most about, and I noticed it in Kentucky as well, is it gives you a pretty large variation in horses, in riders, in training, in everything. So for me, the Grand Prix was more of like, okay, well, that horse will knock your socks off, that horse is going to be going to the top in the world, and then that one you can tell, you can almost see the partnerships and see the, okay, they've done everything they can to be here to represent their country. And you kind of have to imagine where they're from. And it's like, good for them for being here, And then you have the next rider who's from Germany, and you know that they had to duke it out with every, multiple riders that could easily, just given who had the best test that moment, that could easily be on that team. So for the Grand Prix, I felt like that was really interesting, and we really started to watch that and see the different places, the different countries that sent really, really strong representatives. There was a rider that made it all the way to the top, and honestly, I can't remember who it was, but I was really impressed with her horse, and she ended up making it all the way to the freestyle from Austria, which was kind of new to see them somewhere up in the top. And you could just kind of see some countries coming along that are slowly starting to build teams up and send really, really interesting representatives. So for me, that was the most fascinating part of the Grand Prix, was just to see such a huge variation. Of course, our American riders went, and I was really happy to see. And it was interesting.
This is the Horse
Stefan
Radio
and,
Network.
Tina and Adrienne.
This is episode 166.
All season. And I thought it was really impressive to see their horses after seeing them this past season and where they were and what they were how they were competing last season as opposed to this after a solid summer of training hard and clearly working as a team and really having a goal. Their horses were drastically improved. And Stefan, I guess I didn't see that much. It seems like he came to something, and I saw Legolas. But just since I saw all three of those horses last time, I was really, really pleasantly surprised with how solid they were and how just international they looked, which is kind of strange to say, but you see like these amazing Grand Prix horses that are like amazing to me. Yeah, what separates Grand Prix horses that we see like in Wellington and stuff, you see them and they're great, but they're like amazing national horses. Or what jumps them into the next league is amazing Grand Prix international horses. And I just felt like our team looked the most international than they've looked in a while. The horses, the gates had so much volume. And, I have to say, I was really impressed with that. And then Lara Graves, I had never seen her compete, or if I did, and everybody says that she was around Wellington and had done a couple. I'm honestly not sure which one she was at. And if I saw her, I know she didn't do amazing. Like, she just got into Gladstone by the skin of her teeth. If she was in Wellington, I didn't notice her. But let me tell you, she was amazing. And the coolest thing, in France, the coolest thing was that she only got better, too. You watch these horses compete over, it's a pretty grueling week of competition, even though they have their rest day on Thursday. Because she was second in the second group of our team, she showed on Tuesday, showed on Wednesday, had a rest day Thursday, and then showed again on Friday, which is pretty intense. And she only got better. Her horse got stronger, more confident, more powerful. You could tell, which was really cool because a lot of the other horses that started out amazing and strong in their Grand Prix, as the days went by, they got a little bit tired, and you could tell they got a little cranky, and they got a little bit, things started to go wrong. Whereas with her, it just only got better. So.
Yeah, and that's what we had the pleasure of talking with her last week, and that's what she said. She was really cute about it, and how her horse developed, and how she felt better, and so he felt better, and it was really fun.
And you know what? It was so obvious from the stand, like just to watch that partnership and watch that, like you could just see their faces coming in for the first day, and everybody's like, what's going to happen, And just every day you could see it in her extended, you could see it in, like, you could just tell she went for it a little bit more. They got a little more confident. And the coolest thing is that horse was right there for her. You could tell that they have such a relationship. She knows him. And it's interesting because she walks into the arena, which I don't think I saw anybody else do it. She doesn't even go all the way around the show arena before she enters, but she comes walking in very quietly, very almost apprehensively. And the first time I saw her do it in the Grand Prix, I thought, that's not a very good way to come in, because it seems like a lot of people come in to go around the arena, like, boom, make an impression, here I am. And they came in very calm, very quiet, and she only walked across the short side at A and turned around and walked back across the short side at A, and the bell rang and she went in. And I thought, ooh, that's not, I don't know about that. And you know what, it worked. And then she did the same thing for the special, and she did the same thing for the freestyle. So that's clearly their routine. That's something they've developed over the years for whatever reason, but it works. But it was
doing what works for her, right?
Yeah, I'd be terrified to do that. I'd be like, no way.
Like, she never went down to the other end. There were judges' booths. There were video cameras. And in the Grand Prix, he did halfway hesitate for a split second in the walk works when he was walking right at one of the big cameras, because of course it was raining, and so the cameras have those big tarps and everything over him, and then the cameraman is all covered, had all his rain gear. So it was, but it was amazing. Like, I really think she was probably the only one that didn't even go to that end of the arena, but he soldiered on, and so all the power to her. She definitely knew. But that was the cool thing. She knew exactly what needed to be done, and I'm sure that I was not the only one going, go to the other end, And but hey, whatever, it worked. So
no, Jodie, did you see that as a theme? As there was a lot of seasoned competitors there who have been to the big venues, Aachen and the bigger competitions in Europe versus the smaller countries just coming into the WEG. Did you see that in their horses as well? Some apprehensiveness and do you think that makes a difference in the scores in the Grand Prix?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think that it was that, like, across the board. I wouldn't say that it's like, oh, that one's spooky. It hasn't been enough places. Oh, that one's been around. You know what I mean? Some of the big horses that have been to Aachen, have been to the big indoor shows, have been to the huge stadiums. A few of them were spooking too. And really, there wasn't. I mean, a couple of them looked, and like even Laura's horse, like literally, it was like a hesitation in one step. Like it was hardly even really a legit spook. But I mean, it was enough that it did mark her down a little bit in our walk work. But overall, I mean, I don't know. Again, my perspective is just from the stands, but it seemed like the horses were comfortable in the arena and like they seemed happy. I can't think of any real disasters. One horse, I'm not sure what happened. It was, but it like bit its tongue or did something, but they stopped her before she even got started. She like made it halfway across her first extended. But other than that, everybody seemed to rock along pretty well. And I was at the Airmates party that you said had on Monday night, I guess it was. Yeah, it was Monday night because it was after the first day of competition, and it had rained all day long. And I saw Stefan and had a chance to ask him about the footing and how everything was holding up, and he said they had no complaints about how the footing was holding up and the way, as far as the horses go, they all seemed really happy. Like the rain didn't seem to be affecting them, and they had to walk under. It was interesting because the horses you could walk all the way around the stadium when you were up in the, like up on the level where all the seats were. And if you look out, like where the horses walked in, you would expect to see them out the back side of the stadium, and they weren't. They were looking for them the first day. And they actually had to walk out of the stadium and go under a tunnel. They had to go through a tunnel that went under the road in the parking lot and then popped out to the warm-up that was like, Stefan said it was like a 5 or 6 minute walk from the warm-up to the show arena. So that was kind of interesting how they did all of that.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't know that it was that far.
Yeah, and they had quite a few cameras. Like often they had the cameras of, following them along the way. And it was cute. There was one girl, I think she was from Australia. I could be wrong. But her mare was having no part of going through the tunnel. And she was, of course, you're on the clock. Once it's your time to go, you better get over there. And the mare they had the cameras on her, and like the mare was spinning around and going backwards, and the girl was adorable. And she jumped off and pulled her reins over her head and was running with her horse in her shot belly, totally dressed, ready to go to the ring. Like you would have thought that a groom or somebody at that level would have grabbed their horse. Nope, she popped off, grabbed the horse, ran through the tunnel trotting, and like you could see her, like she pops out in the stadium, you see her put her, somebody gave her a leg up, threw her on her horse, and she was trotting in the ring. It was pretty cute. Like, and she rode a really good test. We were like, well, that's one way to do it. But,
I think we've all had that moment when you
right?
gotta
yeah,
get
exactly.
in the
We're
ring.
like, we just gotta get there. So,
Get in
that
the
was
ring.
really
Oh,
cool.
I love it.
And then, as far as the rest of the week goes, you know what? I have to say, the second half of the Grand Prix special was probably the most intense, most exciting, maybe not even just special, but any world competition that I've ever seen. Like, we were literally on the edge of our seats because it truly, and it surprised me because you get to the special and it weeds out all the, like I said, those other countries that come, that they've done everything they can to get there. Yay, okay, you had your experience. Then they take the top 25 to do the special, and it's like, all right, now is when everybody buckles down, and it kind of separates the men from the boys. And then it's divided up. They start to do the reverse order thing in the groups. So by the time you get towards the end of the special, it is truly the top 10 in the world, or the top, whatever, the last group. And they were, until Laura went, I think got like a 77 and change. Until Laura went, there were so many that would be like I think that the top, I can't remember, the top like 10 were within less than 1 point of each other, like 1 percentage point of each other. And it was amazing because they were all so perfect and so correct. It was literally a matter of that one did a little hesitation and boom, it would take them down, and you'd lose a half a point when usually you think, okay, one little movement, fine, whatever, you're still right up there. And you literally, somebody would go from being first, second, and the scoreboard's there, and it's got the running score, and it's got the placing and everything, but they go from first to 10th within less than a full movement. And you're like, and then they start to make up the points again. And then you're like, no, and then you have one brilliant something, and they get an 8.5 or a 9 on it, and it jumps them again from 10th all the way back up to first. So it was really, really intense. And I think probably the closest competition I've ever seen of so many riders. And then it jumped the last couple. You know, you have Damon Hill and who was it? Damon Hill, Desperados, Parzival, and then of course Charlotte. That's still a league of their own. But you have those three who were literally, I think, Parzival missed the bronze medal in the special by I think it was 0.04 of a percentage point. She ended up fourth. And it was so between those two, between Desperados and Parzival, it was so close. And then Damon Hill, Charlotte went, and then Vallegro had a couple little mistakes. And the funny thing was, and Charlotte talked about it later, I saw it in an interview, she did her first extended trot, and she got a 9.5 across the board. And the whole crowd gasped. And you could see, and she said that she heard everybody, because, you know, most of the time everybody gasps when somebody makes a mistake. Rarely do they gasp when something is great. You know, that's when everybody stays quiet. And everybody gasped when her score of a 9.5 came up. And because it was the first movement, all they had scored was her halt, which was great. And so her score was a 92% as it, you know, because it's got the running score. And so she actually, you could see Charlotte hesitated for a second, she thought she messed up, or she thought something was wrong because of the crowd's reaction. So that was unfortunate, because I think it backed her off. She went in with so much confidence. She had that first extended. She was, not to say that her score would have stayed at a 92, but she was riding with such confidence, and the crowd, it was obvious that the crowd backed her off. And then she had those little couple mistakes, and it left the door wide open for Desperados. Or no, Damon Hill. It was Damon Hill, so it was right behind her. And everybody was like, oh, is she going to beat her? But, of course, it ended up with a pretty decent gap. But truly, I think the special was the most intense, the most, you know, because even, it doesn't matter how much you love dressage and how much, when you're sitting in the stands all day long, you do kind of start to glaze over every once in a while, you know?
Yes.
And there was absolutely no glazing over. We literally could not take our eyes off of it and could not wait for the next horse.
Even for horse husbands, Jodie, I would have been there with you.
Do what? Say that again?
Even a horse husband would have been there right with you on the edge of my seat.
I really think, I don't know about that. Because they were such little minute differences. I guess that was the thing. And you know what? I take that back. I think you would have been too, because of the running scoreboard. You know, the running scoreboard helps so much for the because we did have one of the mothers that was with us, who's the mother of one of my young riders, and she's great, and she loves horses, and she's a horse person, but not necessarily. She doesn't love every second of it like we do. But she was even really, really on the edge of her seat too, because of the running scoreboard. And they had the scoreboard not just the big one, but they had them in front of each section of seating, so it was right there and you could see it. And that, I think, is what really did make it interesting, because of what I said. They'd be in first, they'd be in first, they'd be in first. They'd have one little hitch. Of course, she didn't see the hitch, but she'd be like, what happened? You know, so I spent the whole time going, he wasn't even there. She's like, what? But at least it actually did really keep her interested in it as well, just because of that, such a variation of what one little misstep could do for you, you know, as far as being first or 10th.
No, I think, and I think it makes it more interesting in general watching. I mean, it's like, okay, well, that's a 10. Oh my gosh, that's a 9.5. You know, I think even for it's great to educate your eye or you know, just keep that coming.
Especially when you see all of that, because you look at it all and you think, what could they possibly do better? How can they make that better? You know, and then you see it and you go, okay, well, if they scored that one, oh, well, okay, well, that one's a 9.5. I see why that one's an 8.5. You know what I mean? So it really is for everybody. It is really helpful. So I have to say, I really think out of the whole week, the special was by far my favorite, and that's rare. Normally, the freestyles for me are like the big, you know, and for most people even, and it was a sold out stadium for the freestyles, and you know, but I really, truly, I appreciated the special the most out of everything. And then the freestyles, you know, I have to say, I'm not going to lie, I was a little disappointed in the music this time around.
Really? Oh, that's sad.
I really was, and I don't know if more people feel that way or not, but my whole group was kind of like, like there wasn't any really fun,
Jodie,
like get your feet
Jodie, I
moving.
have to agree with you, and actually, don't tell anybody, but I did watch the freestyle.
Yay, Glenn.
Don't tell anybody. But I got to tell you that, when we were at WEG and we had the Spanish guy go in 2010, and there were
so
others
fun.
there were others that had fantastic, upbeat, really pounding music.
Right. Yep.
And I watched this one. Even Charlotte's. I was still like, where's the power? Where's the where's the fun? Where's the rock and roll?
Like Charlotte's last time had like her old one. Like I remember her pirouettes, and it was such a vivid. And it was the bells from the clock tower in England. Like
that's right.
And it was her pirouettes, and it was such a beautiful. And it's gone. It's not in her new freestyle. And there's just none of them really knocked my socks off.
Well, and I got to tell you, the Germans can ride, but boy, their music they put in the freestyles
it's
just
like background music.
It's like elevator music. It's even worse.
No, it totally is.
Yeah.
And actually, and I'm not honestly, I really don't know who picks the music for their background music for the Grand Prix. Like, do you know, Reese?
I don't.
I think somebody.
No, somebody picked. No, the announcer I think does it. I think
not the writers, right? Yeah,
Mm-mm.
the music. But even and Maddie, who was with me, Maddie said the same thing. She said, I liked some of the background music for the Grand Prix better than we liked the freestyle music. Like it was more entertaining, and like we caught ourselves like. Because, like, one of them was funny. They had It's Raining Men for their something. Like, it was more appropriate and more entertaining than the actual freestyles. And it's not to say that the writing wasn't fantastic, and it was, the degree of difficulty was amazing. But you just take some of the ones in the past, like Debbie McDonald's just will always be, the respect one with Frenchina. But then even the ones that they have for Wizards, like, it made me really sad that Adrienne wasn't in the freestyles just to liven it up, because Wizards music is so fun, and, like, you can't help not like almost want to dance with her.
You know what I think the difference is? It was technically, the writing was technically correct, but I don't know that it crossed over to really fun.
Right. It never was fun. None of it was fun.
No.
I have to say. None of it was really fun.
Wow,
and
somebody agreed with me.
Yay. No, you're totally right. And but I think the freestyles should be entertaining for the non-horse people.
That's exactly
I mean?
right. If you're going to catch the horse husbands on anything, it has to be freestyle.
Exactly.
Sure.
And it's just and Laura, but I have to say, I was out of all of them, but maybe it's because I could be a little biased, but out of all of them, I really, really loved Laura's freestyle, the actual freestyle. Her music, again, it kind of, honestly, I think it blended in with the rest of them, but her movements, the choreography of her freestyle, I thought was really technically one of the coolest that I saw. And it was just really, especially knowing how young she is and how green they are to the international scene, it was really, really bold. And like she had piafs that were closer to the judges than G. And it was just in your face and extended and things on center line and things literally like right at the judges, like, watch this. And the coolest thing was she nailed every one of them. And, there's a lot of, and they always tell you, don't take the risk if you can't execute it. Like that's what I've heard all my years of doing freestyles. It doesn't matter how fancy you make it. If you can't do it and do it well, don't try it. And there were a lot of things where you would say that about her test because it was like, ooh, that was risky, but it was so solid and it was so clear that she easily could nail it today, tomorrow, and, next week, that it was really impressive and just made you go, girl, it was neat.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Jodie, thank you so much for your time tonight. This was really a cool discussion about what you saw and what it was like to really, really be there in the stands. Again, we're so jealous.
Fun. It was fun. It was a really cool experience, just across the board, I have to say. That the venue I'm sure you heard about was not amazing and doesn't even compare to Kentucky in any way, shape, or form. But being in France was really fun, and a lot of history. We had really fun times on our days off, and
that means Jodie held it and didn't go to the bathroom for a week. Is what that means.
No, what that means is that I found the handicap bathroom way underneath the stadium that was like a mile from there, and we kept it our secret all week.
That was smart.
But
I
could tell you, I did not use the holes.
I heard that was a little rough for
Oh my
everyone
gosh,
involved.
people were it was not
20 years
acceptable.
from now, they're still going to be talking about the bathrooms at the WEG in
Right?
France.
Well, I mean, who does that in a world situation? The rest of the world doesn't use those.
I would have, yeah, that would have been rough.
No, yeah.
And on that, we'll end.
And on that
On that note,
Jodie, how do our listeners find you online?
JodieKellyDressage.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, and we'd love having you on. Can't wait for the next time.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
This week's dressage training tip is brought to you by Total Saddle Fit, home of the shoulder relief girth at TotalSaddleFit.com.
Fun. Well, as always, we really are thankful from Justin from Total Saddle Fit for his trainer tip and his sponsorship. But we truly want to tell everyone he was very kind and sent us each a girth, Philip and I. So I love this girth. I use it on my precious Denali. Everyone's heard me talk about my wonderful Denali who had a birthday last week. I'm just saying. So he's officially 6 years old. I wasn't home.
Used to bite when you put the girth on.
Oh, he was awful. He was bad Denali and would bite you, and he just hated getting the girth on. I mean, really, he was. And I tried every girth I had in my barn, and I tried pads. I talked to Philip about it. I was like, what is wrong with him? I have no idea. Nothing was pinching him that I could see. And then we got this girth from Justin, and now he's okay. He's not perfect to tack up. He is perfect, but just not. But he's so much better. I mean, he doesn't bite anymore, and he was really aggressive about it. And so I could tell something was bothering him, but he does not do that anymore with this girth. So I love it.
What do you think the difference was with this girth as opposed to the other one?
I think it's the design. I wish
the pressure just goes in the right place, right? I mean,
yeah.
It's just it allows
because it moves it back a little,
the pressure
right?
better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know. He's really narrow, so I don't know if the girth was pinching him because he's narrow in the chest. I'm not sure, but I can tell you that from firsthand experience, I was at wit's end. I mean, I would have. It's also to tell everybody it's a really reasonably priced girth, and so I would have tried anything at that point because I was so upset that he was so angry about getting his girth on. So. I love it, and I'm telling you guys that from the heart. It's a really phenomenal product, so really, really like it.
Plus, her husband appreciates that she doesn't have chew marks all over her body.
Yeah, all over
anymore.
my arms. Yeah, exactly. Like I don't get bitten or kicked or something violent.
And that's TotalSaddleFit.com.
Excellent. Well, I think that we can get to our trainer tip for the week. Reese and I will be doing it this week because we keep getting such awesome questions from our listeners via email. And maybe I'll just get right to it. How about it?
Perfect.
Okay. So we just have a question from a listener that wants to know what are some exercises to improve thrust, as in trot lengthening. The judge commented that my mare was going a little bit wide behind and needed to develop more thrust. Things that she already knows to do, and I know we've talked about this before, so more transitions within gates, in between gates, and hill work outside the arena. She doesn't get terrible scores, but she needs to learn how to improve this. So any extra tips here, Reese, beyond those couple things?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously a listener. We love that. You know, you and I are both a huge proponent for hill work. We're a huge proponent for cavalettis. I see this a lot. And kind of going from training to first level and first level to second level. Some of this it's really interesting because there are times where you're like, oh my gosh, you know, why can't they get it? Why I've been doing my hill work, I've been doing cavalettis, I've been doing transitions. You know, why are they just not able to have a big, huge trot? And I tell everybody that sometimes they just need to continue because it takes a long time to get a horse to have. And especially, I mean, okay, you have your superstars that sort of come out naturally and are able to do it. But then you need horses that need a little bit of time. And I will tell you, this has happened with several of the horses I've trained for a long period of time where we've done all this, you know, and the riders are like, oh, you know, they're just running and I just can't get them to have thrust and engagement and pushing power from behind. And then one day they sort of get it. And I've seen that happen multiple times with horses where they just finally figure it out and have the strength to figure it out. So that would be a little bit of my tip, is just to continue doing what you're doing.
Just keep going. Yeah.
Going. Because sometimes it just takes them a long time to figure it out. And then once they get it and they have the strength and they have the ability, they'll get it. And the other thing I was going to say, Philip, is sometimes when you're trying to do the lengthening or a medium trot, 60 meters, the whole diagonal, is a long way. That's a long way. So sometimes we'll start on a 3/4 diagonal. So it's just not as much ground to cover, because I think sometimes the horse gets maybe 30 to 40 meters and they just kind of can't hold it anymore. And then the person says, "Oh, come on, we have a little bit longer to go." So I think sometimes not going that whole length is a really good thing as well.
Yeah.
How about you, Philip? What do you think?
I was going to say, the design of the second level test, where it brings in collection, lengthenings, travers, and shoulder in, is really smart, because all of those things go together. I just wanted to go back to the comment about the mare traveling a little wide behind, and that can happen, and that horses, when you start to push them on a little bit, they put the hind legs to the outside of the body so that they don't have to come in under the center of the gravity and really carry the weight. That's a very normal thing. And so just doing shoulder in, travers a lot will help to really teach the horse to carry the legs underneath the body. And then once I have a good feeling in my shoulder in and in my travers, I'm going to do the lengthenings, not across the diagonals, but down the long sides in shoulder in. Again, to teach the horse to put the hind leg underneath the body and go forward. That's really hard to do. It takes probably a year at least, kind of, to be doing shoulder in and carrying that, to develop this shoulder in lengthening thing, to get the hind legs under, the front end up. This is really where the hard work really starts to come in, and it takes a lot of time to develop this and to develop the fitness of the horse and rider. So I would just say, take your lengthenings away from the diagonals now. Work them on the short side sometimes. Work them halfway down the long side. Work them within the 20-meter circle. Again, the 20-meter circle, when you have the right bend, forces the hind legs a little bit more underneath the body, rather than on the straight line where the horses can easily get very wide, and that's something that's hard to correct when you're just riding always the same across the diagonal all the time. So just be doing the lengthenings in different places and on curves and within your serpentines and stuff. Don't just do it. Okay, lengthenings in the test are almost always across diagonals all the way to Grand Prix. Have extended trot across the diagonal, but that's not the way you have to train it, right? Train it in different ways. Get creative with it, and keep working on everything in second level, not just the things that you think are weak, because it's all connected. Everything helps everything else, and so you have to get good at the complete second level, including the turn on the forehand or on the hind legs and little pirouette types work and the transition canter walk canter. All those things make the horse very strong. And then the last thing I think is just as much as possible, get some video, get some eyes on the ground, because then you can kind of see and feel what it feels like when you have enough push, right? Sometimes it's just when you're on your own, you feel like, I'm really going for it, and then you watch it on video, and it's like, you know what, that horse can work a little bit harder, or I could really go for a little bit more. Get out of your comfort zone. We talked about all these things before. Get out of your comfort zone. Go for a little extra, a little tap behind on the whip or something like that. It all plays in together. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, no, I think that sounds great. And I think that's it all. And that's just a hard time. We've stressed that a lot, that sort of jump to second level. It's big. It's a big jump for horses. And I think that, we think, okay, we're ready. We did training at first level and ready for second. And it's like, well, maybe you need a winter season to get them strong enough and to carry the weight, and or even the whole season to sort of get them where they need to be. So keep up the good work.
There's no problem in doing first level again and getting really good at it and really comfortable at first level while you continue to work on your second level stuff. Or I've had riders take a season off because they just didn't feel ready. They didn't want to ride the other level, or didn't want to ride first level again for another season. Spent the time and the money, when we all have limited resources, on getting extra coaching, doing some clinics and stuff, getting help with their second level work. there's no problem with that, right? It all takes everybody different times, to develop, and the horses take different time to develop. So, there's no reason why you have to go training this year, first level next year, second level next year, third. There's different ways to think about your training and letting the horses do their job.
Exactly.
Right?
I love it. Well, again,
Cool.
Thank you for all the email questions and Facebook shout outs we've been getting. We love it. We love listener participation, and we will try to get to every one of the tips. That's our goal. So thanks for hanging in, and everybody that sent them in. We will get them on the show as soon as we can. And you can find our show notes and links to today's guests on our website, dressageradio.com. Like us on Facebook, just search Dressage Radio Show. Follow us on Twitter @Horse Radio. My website is Maple Crest Farm, KY, and my email is reese@horseradionetwork.com.
You can find me at philipparksequestrian.com, and my email is philip@horseradionetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors this week for allowing us to put on a great show. And don't forget to check out all the other shows on the Horse Radio Network at horseradionetwork.com.
Everybody, keep your heels down and your shoulders back, and we'll talk to you soon.